What we got next? Monkey, do you want to hit your one next, man?
Sure. Now, see, Monkey's going to go international too. I'm jumping from the US. We'll go to Israel today. This is from the Jerusalem Post. Israel's cannabis industry is dismantling itself from within. Until recently, Israel's medical cannabis sector seemed so promising, but one mistake has eroded this bright future, and the companies are now panicking.
Oh no.
So, we've always heard how wonderful and advanced the Israeli medical cannabis program is. So this kind of caught my eye. Wanted to see what's going on there. The Israeli medical cannabis industry is looking for a lifeline, but right now it's only finding rope to hang itself. And the culprit the local companies are looking for is in the mirror. It's a very familiar sounding story. Every industry goes through upheavals in its infancies, and Israel's medical cannabis industry is no different. It has gone through nonstop upheavals in the past 4 years, but most significant of all of them was the regulator's decision in late 2019 to allow medical cannabis to be imported into Israel. So, we keep talking about corporate cannabis going on here. So this is a perfect example of this happening and what it could possibly do to your industry. The decision was pushed local growers to produce desperation as they were trying not to lose their investment and survive the period of hope and hope for local legalization. I'm talking about recreational is what they're going for. Now, the article has a bunch of data about a few companies that actually made a little bit of money, but basically the article is mostly about the companies that didn't. And the interesting part of it was exactly what happened. Why did this happen? Some within the industry claim the shock in the sector was predictable in light of the local companies being opposed at the start of 2019 to the health ministry reforms that led companies to fear for their profits and status. As a result, they decided not to provide patients with medical cannabis, sparking a severe shortage in the market. And that's stupid right there. Anytime you have a market and you have a shortage and that there's another supplier somewhere, that's a stupid move, in my opinion. In response to this shortage, the health ministry cannabis unit decided a temporary measure to import medical cannabis into Israel and allow local dispensaries to respond to the demand. This temporary issue became permanent. The flow of imports increased and the market has been saturated by them and local firms. Because of this, a price war has begun and is taking its toll on many of the public cannabis firms that have since exited the sector. Now, anytime you have a price war going, it's great for your patients and it can be really tough on companies. And what basically this article sounded like, Israel medical cannabis pretty much had a lock on the industry. They were going to provide it all themselves. And the government jumped in and decided to put some price controls in and a few more regulations in there. And the companies got mad and decided to go on strike. So we know there's surplus cannabis in Canada and California. Thailand's coming online and everybody's out there trying to sell cannabis. And all of a sudden, customers in Israel are getting cheaper cannabis imported than they were having provided to them. So what do you think, guys? What do you think the public would want? Keep the imports, right?
Yeah, man, whatever's cheaper,
Well, that's just it. That's the whole deal. So now the companies hope that the ones that save them from their mistake are the same ones they fought against. However, the Ministry of Health is committed to the quality of cannabis products, not to the profitability of the companies that sell them.
What?
Now this, this is the same thing. Now this also kind of rang true in my ears because California went through an upheaval, or it thought it was an upheaval when they went recreationally legal, and it was the question of, do we allow cannabis to be produced in mass cheaply, or do we limit production to small craft growers and small growers and keep the price higher? And we have had guests on it that were on the side of let's keep cannabis affordable, and it didn't really go well for those people. They took a lot of heat, even though the California cannabis program did follow that model of trying to keep cannabis affordable and allowing the mega growers to exist. It wasn't a highly popular within the cannabis community. And the same thing is happening here. By allowing these imports into the country, it's putting huge pressure on Israeli growers. Now, they can't produce a product at the same price of significant quality that they can't even compete in their own marketplace. What do we do on this? Do we think that we should be protecting our markets, or do we just allow the market to evolve? As I feel like it's eventually going to evolve. You know,
We have to just let the market do its fucking thing, man. And this is a worldwide thing. This is the way. This is how shit works. It's like coffee, for example. We can't grow coffee here in the UK, so it's done out there in Brazil, or I think it's grown in Brazil, most of the coffee, and then it gets chopped down and sent here because it's very cheap to grow it over there rather than grow it here. It costs a fortune.
You could get greenhouses up and make your own coffee there, and it'd be expensive as hell. But that's a great example. You know, you get it where it's cheapest, and you bring it in.
And that's going to happen all over the world eventually. Yeah, cannabis will be grown where it's cheapest to grow, and then it will be sent out all over the world at a cheap price. You won't be able to compete with it. Then if it costs you a lot of money to produce it, then you're not going to be able to compete with all of these places that can produce it cheaply. That's just the way the market works. But we're still going to have these small-time growers, the mom-and-pop stores, you know, that just growing a few small plants, but they will produce a higher quality product that somebody can buy if they wanted the higher quality product. Just like brandy, you know, or whiskey. You can go buy your Jack Daniels if you want to, which is mass-produced, and they fucking produce shitloads of it. Or you can go buy that whiskey that's £100 a bottle because not much of it is made. Or, you know, there's loads of different kinds of whiskey you can buy for fucking thousands of pounds if you wanted to buy that shit. But it's going to be exactly the same with weed if we just open up the market and let it do its fucking thing.
But no matter where you are and in any market, you're always going to find the lowest priced option. It's always going to exist in the market. And this is just one of those cases that this is what's happened. They opened it up to imports. They found a lower price, and the consumer likes it at this point. So,
well, you know, they need to fix up
themselves. They shot themselves in their own foot here. You know, they were going to go on strike, thinking like the people were going to scream about it, and the government went right around them. I mean, it's amazing. We need to watch what's going on with this kind of stuff like that. You know, these. When companies try to push governments around, usually the government wins.
Bastards.
I wonder if there's going to be any, like, I don't know what Israel's black market is like, but, you know, where there's this demand, there's and like you're saying with the imported, that's illicitly imported, I assume. Or
well, the demand for medical cannabis in Israel is approximately 52 tons per year. Local firms are growing and producing, have a capacity of producing 100 tons a year. So they can actually produce as much, they can meet their own requirements, but they're finding it cheaper elsewhere at this point.
Yeah, well.
They need to find a way to make it cheaper then, don't they?
Supply and command. You know.
Yeah, it's one of those things, you know, well, everybody, I think they started up these medical companies, you know, expecting to get X number of dollars per gram for this stuff. And all of a sudden, you know, now they're going to have to figure out of doing it cheaper and things like that. Governments can really mess us up with that. You know, they slap on these extra taxes and all these extra testing requirements and licensing requirements. And by the time it's over with, you're in trouble. You're in too deep. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. But it's just going to take time. Going to take lots of time because we need the whole world to really legalize. Is there anywhere in the world where coffee is illegal? I don't think there is, right?
Illegal?
Yeah,
it's the most widely consumed drug in the entire world.
Right.
But under sugar.
Yeah, I think caffeine's considered. It's like more mind altering though, so it's considered a drug versus sugar.
But that's it. We need cannabis to get to the same state where coffee is, and then when it's available worldwide to everybody and can be enjoyed by everybody, then it'll achieve the level it's supposed to achieve in the market. You know, that's the way it needs to be. But we're a long way from that shit.
Yeah, eventually, you know, and you're probably looking maybe a decade, or not a decade, maybe
a century. Yeah.
You know, to where this stuff is actually just shipped in bags like coffee on ships across the ocean, and just no big deal.
I look forward
eventually
to
it's going to happen, but man, I don't know when.
I want to be able to smoke some fucking Santa Marta Gold, you know, right for the hills of Colombia.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, that's a market right there, you know, like with this terroir cannabis, getting something special that came, you know, from the hills of Jamaica or something, you know, from the mountains of Colombia, or
the Hindu Kush mountains, man. Get some fucking shit out of India, some of that, you know, some stuff out in Nepal.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
mean, I can envision something like a wine. You know, you have these big wine stores. Why not a big cannabis store with all this imported cannabis?
Again, like whiskey, you know, you have your Scotch whiskey, you got your Irish whiskey, you got all these different
Right.
whiskey that people prefer because it's from a particular place, and cannabis will be the same. We just have to allow it to be. I mean,
Yeah.
they, because we would. It's them, those
Yeah,
people.
we have to get national legalization, and we have to get this whole export thing under control and stuff like that. And then
Mhm.
it could happen, but you know, in our lifetimes, probably doubtful.
One day we can dream.
That's it. Maybe, you know, maybe tomorrow we're going to wake up and something major change, and it's all going to be different. Not.
No. Like one of the
No.
members of the government hits shitload of DMT and wakes up and be like, "Yo, I've seen the other side, man, and we just kind of legalize all this shit now and just stop being stupid." Yeah. We can dream. We can dream.